So when you go to set up your first wood shop, you may discover that there are some added costs that you hadn't factored in. It's always helpful to know these costs ahead of time, hence this video. You want to make sure that you fully understand the terms and conditions of any lease before you sign on the dotted line. For example, are utilities included? They were for me in my shop, but your circumstances may be entirely different. In any case, you need a reliable estimate of what you can reasonably expect to pay for the basic necessities of operating your shop. So unexpected cost number one is the cost of getting your space ready. Once you've signed and you've paid and you're handed the key, it's time to get moved in and get your shop set up. Hopefully your shop is in much better shape than the one pictured here, but sometimes you can walk into a complete disaster, and if you're not ready for it, it can really throw you for a loop. Even a relatively clean shop can have old equipment or dirty walls or floors and things like that that need to be taken care of before you start setting up. If you're not planning for the extra time and expense of taking care of these things, you could be in for another unpleasant surprise. Plan on it taking you more time and costing you more money than you originally anticipated. That's just the way it often is when you move into commercial or industrial space. You also want to make sure everything's functioning as it should, that you have running water, that the toilet works properly, and that sort of thing. You need basic electricity, lighting, and so forth. If everything's perfectly operational, great. But if it's not, you may incur some added expenses. You may need to hire a plumber, for example, or you may need to replace some fluorescent tubes in the light fixtures. Another cost is the cost of general cleanup. You want to make sure that the shop floor is swept clean and any obvious marks are off the walls and that sort of thing. It can take several hours to a couple of days to completely clean up a shop, depending on your standards. The thing to note is that time is money. And if it takes you extra time to clean up, well, that's costing you money, whether it's you doing the labor or your hired help. Another sometimes unexpected expense is for proper racking and storage of your lumber, plywoods, finishing supplies, and hardware. Even if you build those racks yourself out of 2x4s and plywood, for example, there's the cost of materials and time. There's no way around it, and proper storage and organization is essential to a smooth running shop. When you have a place for everything and everything in its place, things run much more smoothly. It's this basic organization that can make the difference, particularly when you're starting. Another potential expense is putting in a separate office. Many commercial and industrial units already have a small corner assigned to an office. If yours does and it's adequate, great. But if it doesn't, you're going to have to build one. You may find that there is a small office, but it's not adequate for your needs. That's exactly what happened to me, and eventually I upgraded and end up spending an extra $5,000 to $6,000 to do so. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't do it for less, but it's just another added expense that you should be aware of. You can also benefit tremendously by painting your shop. Use bright white or an off-white on the walls as opposed to the gray block of most commercial or industrial structures. It helps make the shop brighter and more upbeat. This, in addition to adequate lighting, makes for a more productive environment. You should also prepare for purchasing garbage bins and that sort of thing, cleaning supplies and toilet paper. Each of those items by themselves may not amount to much, but when you factor in all of these added expenses, it can be significant. After all, you've got to put the dust and shavings and cutoffs somewhere. Another expense that is easily overlooked is the expense of garbage pickup. You usually can't count on your municipality for garbage pickup other than office trash. They will usually resist anything that seems the least bit industrial. What that means is that you may have to hire a disposal service to drop off one of their bins in the parking lot that you can fill and have them come and pick up and take to a landfill periodically. I recommend that you shop around for the best rates, as they can vary quite a bit. And some of these services will try to lock you into a long-term arrangement, while others will let you go month to month. Another expense that comes to mind is the expense of hooking up various machines. Chances are you don't have outlets and maybe not the proper voltage in the locations that you want them, what would serve you best in terms of efficiency. This means hiring a certified electrician to do the job. By the way, this isn't something I recommend you try to do yourself, even if you're capable of doing so. The reason is that an insurance company could use that as a reason to not pay out a claim when you didn't have a proper electrician do your wiring or hook up a machine. Of course, it's going to cost you more money doing it that way than if you did the wiring yourself, but it's just a better idea all around. If you found this information helpful, be sure to click the link below in the description.